You've laughed at stories of lost cities, gods with bad tempers, and beasts that could eat ships. Well, surprise. You're about to time travel through 33 myths that the world thought were nonsense, until the evidence refused to stay buried. If you love finding out that history's conspiracy theorists were sometimes just historians ahead of schedule, hit subscribe and join ancient absurdity. Myth Mumbun 1. The city of Troy actually existed. You open your eyes to dust, sun, and the chaos of siege. Welcome to ancient Troy, not just a poet's fantasy, but a real city unearthed by Heinrich Schliemann in the 1870s. For centuries, scholars laughed at Homer's Iliad. Turns out, the joke aged badly. Archaeology revealed multiple layers of destruction and walls, thick enough to make any Greek rethink their horse delivery strategies. Myth number 2. The Great Flood wasn't entirely fiction. You wake up ankle-deep in mud in Mesopotamia. The smell of wet clay and panic. Across ancient cultures, Sumerian, Hebrew, Babylonian, flood myths abound. And geological evidence shows massive deluges from melting glaciers about 7,000 years ago. Turns out, Noah may just have been one of many traumatized boat owners writing about the same natural disaster. Myth number 3. Dragons were just paleontology. Without context, you stumble into an ancient Chinese tomb and trip over a giant femur. Before museums, people found dinosaur bones and did the logical thing. Assumed they were dragons. From China's Long to Europe's fire breathers, the myth was born from honest misidentification. Basically, early scientists were kids with zero labels and a lot of imagination. Myth 4. Atlantis had real inspirations. You're standing on a volcanic island as the sky turns orange. The ground shakes violently. The story of Atlantis may trace back to the eruption of Thera, Santorini, around 1600 BCE, which annihilated the Minoan civilization. Plato might have been retelling a survivor's trauma with extra philosophical flair. So, yes, Atlantis probably existed, just underwater and screaming. Myth number 5. The Amazons were real warriors. You're in the Eurasian steppe, surrounded by horsewomen with bows and better aim than your Wi-Fi. Graves discovered in the 1990s proved Scythian women fought alongside men, buried with weapons, scars, and armor. The Greek tales of Amazons weren't fantasies, they were neighbors with attitude. Basically, never mansplain archery to a Scythian. Myth number 6. The walls of Jericho fell. Kind of the air is thick with dust and trumpets. For years, the fall of Jericho was religious fiction. Then excavations found collapsed walls dating to around 1400 BCE. Not perfect alignment with scripture, but enough to suggest something loud happened. Whether it was divine sound design or an earthquake, Jericho really did crumble. Myth 7. King Midas and his gold touch. You blink, and everything you touch glitters, inconveniently. A ruler named Midas actually existed in Phrygia, modern Turkey. Archaeologists found his tomb filled with golden artifacts. Not from alchemy, just extreme wealth. Moral of the story: he didn't turn things to gold, but he definitely hoarded enough to fake it. Myth 8. The Oracle of Delphi's trippy predictions. You inhale something potent. Ancient priestesses at Delphi sat above fissures releasing ethylene gas, producing euphoric trances. So yes, the oracle really spoke for Apollo. The science checks out. Basically, prophecy by natural hallucinogen. The ancients accidentally invented the world's first vaporizer lounge. Myth number 9. The Trojan horse might have been a siege machine. You're staring at a massive wooden structure outside the gates. It's not a toy. It's tactical deception. Historians now suspect the horse was a poetic metaphor for a battering ram or siege tower. So yes, the Trojans did open their gates, just not for equestrian decor. Myth 10. Pompeii's people were frozen in time. Literally, you cough through volcanic ash. For centuries, Pompeii was just a cautionary legend. Then, in 1748, excavators found an entire city flash-frozen by Vesuvius. Bread still in ovens, people mid-conversation. The myth became a tragic museum, a perfect, horrifying time capsule. Myth, Part 11. Cleopatra's death by snake. Plausible. You find yourself in an Egyptian palace filled with perfume and panic. While historians debated poison, evidence shows that Egyptian cobras could have been smuggled in baskets. Cleopatra likely chose venom over Roman humiliation. Dramatic? Yes. Historically absurd? No. Shakespeare didn't invent everything. Myth, 12. The hanging gardens of Babylon might have been in Nineveh. You stand before lush terraces dripping with waterfalls. Except you're not in Babylon. Some scholars believe the fabled gardens belonged to Assyrian king Sennacherib in Nineveh. Ancient historians may have just misplaced the zip code. Still, the gardens existed. Ancient Google Maps simply misfired. Myth, turn 13. The Vikings reached America. You're freezing on a Newfoundland shore, holding a fish that tastes suspiciously pre-Columbian. The site at Lonso Meadows proves Norse explorers landed in North America around the year 1000. So yes, Leif Erikson beat Columbus by nearly 500 years, and didn't even need a flag-planting ceremony. Myth, Mahund 14. Unicorns were just misidentified rhinos. You wander through a Persian market. Someone sells you a unicorn horn. It smells like mud and regret. Ancient traders mistook narwhal tusks and Indian rhino horns for proof of magical beasts. Turns out, the unicorn was real, just had bad PR and a worse skincare routine. Myth, 15. Medieval torture devices were real and worse. You wake up chained in a stone dungeon. Spoiler, the Iron Maiden existed, but later as a Victorian hoax. However, the real medieval tortures, rack, breaking wheel, impalement, were enough to make Game of Thrones look like a wellness retreat. Sometimes the myth undersells the horror. Myth, 16. Alchemy wasn't pure fantasy. You're hunched over bubbling glass in a medieval lab. Most alchemists failed to make gold, sure, but they accidentally discovered acids, alloys, and even early distillation. Alchemy birthed chemistry while trying to scam physics. So yes, turning lead into gold was nonsense, but turning ignorance into science. Nailed it. Myth, Nashu 17. Marco Polo didn't make up the East. You step off a caravan into 13th century China. For years, people claimed Marco Polo fabricated his adventures. Then historians matched his accounts to Yuan-era records, technologies, and trade goods. He might have embellished, but he didn't hallucinate the entire Silk Road. Myth, 18. The Chinese reached the world first. You stare at a colossal treasure ship under Admiral Zheng He. In the early 1400s, fleets sailed to Africa decades before Europeans. Maps and records back it up. The myth of European first contact sank faster than a Portuguese caravel. Myth, 19. The Knights Templars' hidden treasure had a basis. You're in a candlelit crypt. Most Templar treasure tales are fantasy, but documents confirm vast financial networks, secret vaults, and missing assets when the order fell. So no glowing grail, just medieval offshore banking. Still shady, though. Myth 20. Witch potions contained real hallucinogens. You stir a bubbling cauldron. The fumes hit different. Chemical analysis of witch ointments found tropane alkaloids from belladonna and henbane, genuine psychoactive compounds. So, witches did fly. Just chemically, not aerodynamically. Myth, 21. Ancient dentistry. Actually worked. You open your mouth in ancient Egypt. A dentist inserts linen soaked in honey and natron. Archaeologists found bridges, fillings, even gold wires in teeth. Painful, yes, but effective. Medieval dentists were basically mechanics with theology degrees. Myth number 22. Biblical giants. Had real-world echoes. You look up, way up, at a burial mound. Legends of giants came from discovering megafauna bones like mammoths and mastodons. Early diggers assumed humans, but huge. Turns out the giants were just elephants with identity issues. Myth 23. War elephants were not exaggerations. You hear thunder. No, tusks. Ancient accounts of Hannibal crossing the Alps with elephants sounded absurd until modern recreations showed it was logistically possible. Remains and tracks confirm it. The elephants did it. Hannibal was basically doing ancient flex videos. Myth 24. The ghost army of Wababulu. Actually existed. You blink, and inflatable tanks surround you. During World War II, Allied artists and sound engineers built a fake army with speakers and decoys to mislead the Nazis. A literal army of illusions. Ghosts with budget and paperwork. Myth 25. The Philosopher's Stone. Had a scientific core. In 17th century labs, you grind red powder called projector. They weren't making immortality juice, but experimenting with phosphorus and sulfuric compounds. Those stones advanced chemistry. So immortality? No. Glow-in-the-dark accidents? Yes. Myth 26. The Ice Age. Land bridge was real. You're trudging across a frozen plain from Siberia to Alaska. Once dismissed as folklore, the Bering Land Bridge is now proven by genetics and geology. Humanity literally walked into the Americas. No boats, no GPS, just very committed pedestrians. Myth 27. Biblical plagues. Had natural causes. Frogs, flies, blood-red rivers. Sounds divine. But sediment and climate data show volcanic dust and red algae could cause Egypt's plagues. Nature doesn't need miracles to freak people out. Myth number 28. Easter Island's collapse. Wasn't just cursed idols. You stand among towering moai. The myth blamed superstition. The truth was ecology and overfarming. Still, oral legends accurately remembered deforestation centuries later. Proof that myth can preserve data when paper burns. Myth number 29. Ancient rockets were real. You light a fuse in 13th century China and instantly regret it. Gunpowder rockets described in Song Dynasty texts actually flew. Archaeological finds confirm primitive multi-stage designs. So yes, fireworks started as weapons of mild self-destruction. Myth 30. Vampire panics had medical roots. You exhale in a foggy graveyard. Vampire corpses turned out to be victims of tuberculosis and post-mortem bloating. Grave diggers saw blood at the mouth and panicked. Science eventually exorcised the myth. With hygiene. Myth 31. The Yeti. Had DNA, you trudge through Himalayan snow and find fur. Tests show most Yeti hair belongs to ancient polar bear hybrids. So the legend came from encounters with real but rare predators. Not mystical, just zoology on hard mode. Myth 32. Ancient astronauts, sort of. You stare at 3,000-year-old carvings that look suspiciously like space helmets. No aliens, but yes. Ancient cultures did chart stars, build observatories, and calculate planetary motion with eerie precision. So the astronauts were human geniuses, not tourists from Mars. Myth 33. Mummy's curse. Was half true. You step into Tutankhamun's tomb. Several people involved in its opening died soon after, fueling the curse myth. Modern science found airborne mold and bacteria deadly enough to explain it. So the curse was real, microbiologically. You stand surrounded by ruins, fossils, and one smug archaeologist. Every myth starts as a rumor, whispered by someone who saw too much. Thousands of years later, science quietly confirms they weren't crazy, just early. So next time you hear a story that sounds impossible, don't roll your eyes. take notes. Because humanity's wildest legends weren't fantasies. They were spoilers. If you want more history that's too absurd to be fake, subscribe to Ancient Absurdity and keep questioning everything your textbooks told you.
Subscribe to Ancient Absurdity.